Two of America's most wanted at the same place and the same time.
What I'm running for? What's the crimes? I ain't do nothing.
You are wanted for your commentary, my good sir. And we will give that today. Cowboys, Browns, less than 1 week away. It's time to stop talking about all the tabloid stuff and get down to football. And anytime I want to talk football, I bring my brother Quincy Carrier, and we'll do that coming up right here on this episode of The Ultimate Browns. Welcome to the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports. It's G. Bush. You know it must be important. You know it must be game time. And it's getting close to football. And when I want to talk football, we got Quincy Carrier in the building. Quincy, what's good, man?
I'm doing good. You know, I got my videos uploaded for the Labor Day weekend. I'm taking it nice and easy. It's white. I'm wearing this before Labor Day, right? So I'm good. I'm in the clear. And I forget the rules around that. But yeah, you know, I'm just chilling. Trying to take it easy before Wednesday is really when the week starts for football, because that's when the injury report comes out, and that's when people start getting it crack-a-lacking. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm putting myself in a position to be successful this season with everything else that I'm trying to achieve behind the scenes.
Hey, listen, so basically he said he got his first 5 videos of the season already scripted for success. He has his third and mediums.
Oh yeah, I got my Kevin Stefanski game plan on. Boy, that whole first quarter. we gonna run the plays. We know we about to run. Ain't no need to huddle. What we huddling for? You know what's next.
Yeah, you know we've been running this for since summer started. So we're going to get into it. Got a great show planned for you. Coming up later in the show, we'll go over matchups, X factors, the game plan, good versus good on this. We'll talk about it, whether it's in terms of a position group or just individuals. We'll get Quincy's thoughts on the game plan and exactly what the Cleveland Browns need to do to come up with a win. We'll also get to the Browns defense. I think the defense in preseason, in early parts of the season, is always ahead of the offense, just because that's just the nature of the beast with timing and rhythm. The Browns defense was lights out last year at home. They get a chance to go against the Cowboys. Will they show any new wrinkles? Will it be the same old two-step, which is good enough to beat a lot of people, or will you see some little wrinkles here or there, and what to expect from Jim Schwartz and the Browns defense? But first, before we get into any of that, Quincy, we got to talk about the storyline that I think will drive all of the storylines going into this week, is the fact that you got Dak Prescott, quarterback for the Cowboys, coming off a great year. Still don't have a contract, but still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and one of the guys that has shown in his past to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And Deshaun Watson has not really lived up to that in a very small sample size, 11 games. Record is good, but Deshaun will probably tell you that he expects to play much better. When you look at this matchup, get into the thought process of Deshaun Watson. Is he looking at this game from a perspective of, I want to get my team off to a fast start? I'm looking at, this game. How do you think Deshaun is approaching this week of preparation, and how important is it for him to have some success early in this game?
I think he's taking this week of preparation about as seriously as any week he has in his life, simply because this might be one of the most important football seasons of his career, college or pro. You look at this team and what they have around him. He's never been on a team this good. He's never had a team this talented, this fully complete. I mean, I know people are up and down on the team on the internet, but this is a team that went 11-6 with 26% of the salary cap on IR, and now they're getting that 26% back before like at least the 6th week of the season. So you're going to be talking about a very healthy, hopefully, knock on wood, and very, very talented Browns team. And you look at those teams he played in Houston, and they weren't this talented. Even like some of the teams, well, the Clemson teams were pretty talented, right? But they were anchored by what he was able to do. And I think this comes to the whole mindset change of it, right? I think Deshaun had a realization watching Pat Mahomes in the conference championship game and watching what he did against the Baltimore Ravens, the same opponents that the Chiefs beat in the conference championship game. And he had a realization. He doesn't have to be the best player. He's never going to be the best player on this team. Like, that's just Myles Garrett is one of the greatest players at his position we've probably ever seen. Definitely the most talented. The idea that he's ever going to be the best player on the team, I mean, that's just not going to happen. Even at running back, when you got Nick Chubb, that's going to be difficult. So the job for Deshaun is very different than what he's had in previous years, where Houston, he had to be the best player on the team in order for that team to be successful. In Clemson, he had to be the best player on the team. Here, it's no disrespect to him, but you got two guys who can be considered Hall of Famers at this point. Nick Chubb, if he puts together another 1,500-yard season, will definitely be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, or at least should be in the Hall of Fame. That's going to be a difficult bar to measure up to. Like, basically, he's not going to be the best player on this team, and that's okay. He does not have to be the best player on this team. And can he adjust his play style to do that? And what we saw in the second half of Baltimore was somebody who realized, I got David Njoku. Like, I don't got to run that. David can run that, right? Jerome Ford coming out the backfield, who's pretty good as a receiving back. Like, it's not all on Deshaun Watson. So while I think this is the most important year of his career, it's in a very different way. It's not going to be, okay, Deshaun, put up 5,000. And he's going to have to ball. Don't get me wrong here. He's going to have to play well for the Browns to win games here. But the thing is he doesn't have to be the best player on the Browns in order for the Browns to win games. He has to be in that top three, but he doesn't have to be the best player. And that's a very different challenge than what Deshaun Watson has faced. And that's going to be the key to his health. And that's going to be the key to the Browns' success, because if Deshaun Watson is the third best player on this team, the Browns can win the AFC North, they can win the AFC Championship, and they can win the Super Bowl. But if Deshaun is the best player on this team, then I do have worries, not because Deshaun's things was like, oh man, well, what's going on with Miles? What's going on with Chubb? What's going on with all these other guys? Because this team is about how talented they are around the quarterback position. And then if the quarterback can elevate and join that talent level, then yeah, you got something that can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I thought I really did. I dug that point where you said, this is the most pivotal, week in the most seriously he's going to take it, because this is one of the biggest seasons of his life. And I think it's also spot on that when you talk about it, I think people misconstrue things, and they say, let's go back and look at Houston Texans days. Deshaun Watson could put up less numbers than he did in Houston and still be better than he was in Houston. And I think people are not really, looking at it in a correct lane.
And the thing with Deshaun that you want to see this year, like, I think I'm going to be able to tell if the Browns going to be successful or not this season by how patient Deshaun Watson is willing to be. We know when we talk about quarterback positioning, a lot of the hot stuff gets talked about, right? Yeah. Oh, how can you throw that? Can you throw that big time throw? All like the perfect example of how people just don't understand the quarterback position is the reaction to the Baltimore game by those of his detractors who were like, "Oh, it wasn't impressive. He didn't make the big time throws. He didn't get the tight windows stuff," and they don't realize that's not how the position is supposed to be played 90% of the time. You're not supposed to be making, like Joe Flacco, credit to him. The reason I was like, there's no way that was a more sustainable style quarterback, because he had to make these heart-stopping throws in order to stay above water. And that's just not how the position should be played. 90% of the time, you should be taking what's available to you. You got to just take the profit. And it's very boring as a quarterback to take the profit. And what breaks a lot of quarterbacks, G. Bush, isn't their ability to make those crazy throws. It's their ability to be mentally disciplined enough to be okay with taking what's easy. And if you don't believe me, y'all play Madden, and I'm not saying Madden is a good simulation of pro football, but it is a good simulation of this mentality, right? How many times y'all be messing up in Madden because you decide you want to make the big play now?
I'm going up
like
top.
You got 12 plays, know that work. You have 12 reads, that work. Underneath this cover 3, if that's cover 3, if the linebacker shades up, I'm gonna throw the hook there. Like, easy, simple, boring football, but easy, simple football to play.
And then you just break out that check down. Sometimes it's hard. See, folks, it's hard to get that check down. And I will say this. When people, I hear detractors all the time talking about the fact that he didn't make a big time throws. I wouldn't, but you and I, we go back and watch these games. The throw to Amari Cooper in the fourth quarter, where it's 2 inches off the blade of grass over the middle of the field, when it's like, that was
on a front side dig over the middle of the field for like on a 3rd and 18 or something like that too, to get to a 3rd and 1. So that's a huge throw in the context of when that throw happens. And I want to make sure I don't characterize this as, just taking checkdowns, right? Because I think sometimes people tend to do that as just take the check down when we're saying take what the defense is giving you. No, you're not going to have the big play, but you can get a 20-yard chunk play, right? Over the middle of the field, because they're playing loose there because they're trying to get Amari Cooper ran off the ball. Like it's just patience. It's taking what's there, getting a 20-yard chunk here, settling for 7 there, getting 6 here. Okay, I'm going to scramble for 8 here, right? Like not trying to optimize or be so focused on efficiency that you're trying to get those big chunk plays. You'll notice when you look at quarterback stats, you'll see some funky results at the top, G. Bush, right? If we look at if we just sort by efficiency or we sort by a quarterback rating that values efficiency, you'll see stuff like, Tua's the best quarterback in the NFL according to this number. And the reason is you don't want to be extreme in any single one category as a quarterback. Like Tom Brady is a perfect example of this. What was Tom Brady like the one thing he was great at? Balance. It's like he was just good enough.
You don't know exactly. Like that's why you can't quantify how great he was, because you could look at Marino and say his arm was great. You could look at Peyton Manning and his Omaha and the way he was Professor X on the field.
Exactly.
You could look at Brett Favre as the gunslinger with the robotic arm.
The ones anywhere. We have like the big branding stuff about where it's like, this is what they do at the top level. Those aren't usually the quarterbacks that we associate with winning Super Bowls. And it's not to say that you can't have one thing that makes you really good, but look at the success of the guys that we know for being really good at that one thing and only really at that one thing. You could go to Hall of Famers, Peyton Manning, super cerebral, right? The big play guy. I know some people didn't even watch Peyton Manning play that's in the audience now, which is nuts to me. But it's like, we know that, Peyton had problems with interceptions in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson right now. Nobody is a better athlete at the quarterback position than Lamar Jackson. Nobody's ever been a better athlete at the quarterback position than Lamar Jackson. But yet, time and time again, he runs up against a wall, whether it be his teammates or himself, in the playoffs when it matters the most. But you look at the guys who can win a lot, right? Pat Mahomes doesn't get enough credit for it. Yeah, he has the big arm. Yeah, he's done all that. But he's really toned that down the last couple of years. By the way, the last couple of years he's went back to back because he hasn't had Tyreek Hill, right? He hasn't had those big deep play guys. But you watch Pat Mahomes today, it's actually kind of boring. Right? Like it's actually really boring to watch Pat Mahomes because he's just making good decisions. And then he'll break out and then he'll scramble and he'll make a good decision when he scrambles. And he's patient and he's patient and he's patient. And that goes back to Deshaun Watson here because I don't want to stray too far from the point. But that's what his season's going to be measured at. I don't care if he has 5,000 passing yards. I don't care if he has 40 times. What I care about is the patience there, because that's going to translate to winning. Is he going to be willing to take what's there? Because they're going to give you some stuff. Especially since NFL teams are looking at you in the way that you're not Deshaun Watson anymore. So you got to be patient. You got to take what's there. You got to be willing to just play the long game on this and do the stuff that was successful in Baltimore. Every once in a while, it's going to come up. We're going to need you to make a play. And I need him to step up and make those plays in the fourth quarter when that arises. But it can't be everything that he's doing. We can't live through a Deshaun Watson highlight reel season where he's playing a ton of hero ball. It needs to be patient football. I need him to stay in that pocket just a half a second longer to make that 8-yard pass. I need him to play a style of football that we might think is more visually boring, not the Deshaun Watson from Houston, but the Deshaun Watson from Houston only went to a divisional championship game. We talking about trying to go to the Super Bowl. He's got to play. I'm not saying he can't run or do any of that stuff, right? But the excitement part of it, you got to just
face, right. I've been on record. I need that 4,500 though. Like it could be a boring 4,500. Like that's Quincy said that. I said I want 4,500 because at the end of the day, and we'll move on for them. But I want to give you the last word on this and get your thought processes on this, because I'm tired of the conversation. Like I want my 4,500 so that I could go back to talking about regular sports and life. And I want to ask you this though: is there anything that he can do in this game that is going to change people's perception of Deshaun Watson if he does look good? Because the only reason I'm asking this question is we'll kill somebody if they ain't up to par. But then we'll move the goalpost if he does look good and is very efficient. They'll say it's just one game.
I have made my peace with how coverage works today, right? And what I've come to peace with is Deshaun Watson could throw for 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Pretty undeniable numbers.
Right.
And people will still try to say that it's the worst quarterback trade of all time. People will still try to say it's the worst quarterback contract. It will sound ridiculous, but this is where people are. A lot of people aren't moved by reality the way that they used to be moved by reality, right? Like a lot of people just don't care what's actually happening. They wanna just push what they think is gonna happen, right? So if he has that great year, we'll wait till next year. I promise you he's gonna bomb, or he's not gonna put up those numbers again. And it's like it doesn't matter in reality if he does or does not put up those numbers again, because if he does it one time, it's worth the trade in some aspect, depending on where the Browns go with that 1 year. But even then, people are going to move the goalposts. They're going to slightly adjust these takes. They're going to move them down the right. They're going to change up things that they definitely were implying, but now it's going to be that they were implying. Now you're going to hear a lot of I never said Deshaun Watson was done. I just said he needed to prove it. Right?
I never said it. I didn't want him to perform. We all would like them to perform.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's going to turn into a lot of that, a lot of just like moving down the line, or some people gonna double down and still, the first 2 years were so bad, right? Like wow. It's just gonna be what it's gonna be. There's a good saying out there. I don't think I can say it on this show, but people gonna say what they gonna say. And if people don't know what they talking about, IS gonna be IS, if you know what I'm saying, right? Like you can't really focus on it, right? And there's just gonna be people who don't really care about the football here. They don't really care about whether Deshaun Watson's playing well. They just want it to be true that this was a horrible decision because they want some kind of karma for the Browns moving in on Deshaun Watson. So it's just one of them things where I prepare myself. There's no magical stat line he's going to achieve. There's no accolade he's going to get. The people who don't like him largely do not like him for non-football reasons. The football ain't going to bring him back to the table, right? So it is what it is. I think Deshaun got to accept it. I think people just got to take it for what it is. It ain't going to be the same as if it were somebody who wasn't connected to all those things that accomplished them. And there's always going to be people who are going to look to try to minimize what he did, whether it be because of the supporting staff. Oh, he had Kevin Stefanski, like all of this stuff. People do it for Brock Purdy. I've seen people do it for Patrick Mahomes. People do it for Josh Allen. Look at how they talk about Lamar Jackson. Like, it ain't going, it's just, it is what it is. Quarterback discourse is cooked. I saw a Tyler Huntley stand on Twitter the other day. These people cannot be trusted to talk about the position.
Well, what we can't be trusted to talk about is at least one thing we're crystal clear on. I hope we would all be crystal clear is the Browns defense being pretty good. When we get back, we'll talk about the Browns defense. What wrinkles could they possibly show? Will they keep it the same? And what are some of the things that they need to be watching out for when it comes to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb as the Cowboys come to town in less than 7 days now? It's kind of crazy. We almost there. We'll talk about it coming back. It's G. Bush and Quincy Carrier right here on the Ultimate Browns. I loved going to the Cavs playoff games back in 2016. I'm looking forward to seeing the Guardians this fall in a pennant race. Game Time has new features that can help you see both of those coming up in the 2025 season. And this feature is called the Game Time Picks that makes tickets for your favorite live events or events wherever you go, whether that's art, music, even easier to get. Game Time picks filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. By the way, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection as well for your investment for your tickets. And they also talk about this. This is great. Back in the day, they didn't have this, right? Now they got seat views. Get panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy the ticket. So this is the best place to go ahead and get your tickets, the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference between the prices and the tickets. Hey, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code word Locked On NFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On NFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Quincy Carrier, G. Bush, right here on the Ultimate Browns, talking a little bit about the Cowboys, talking a little bit about everything going on. Quincy, really quickly before we go, tell the people where you can find some of your material at, man.
YouTube.com/Quincy Carrier. You can go at Quincy Carrier on YouTube if anybody uses that function, or you can search Quincy Carrier Browns. I'll pop up there. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you notify so you don't miss nothing.
Guess what? His name is in the description. You probably pulled up on this video because you did put Quincy Carrier in there. And guess what? We're glad to have him on the Ultimate Browns. We got done talking about Deshaun Watson a little bit. Let's go to the other side of the football. Defense wins championships, or at least the old saying used to be. Right here, the Browns have one of the best defense, had one of the better defenses in the league, top 5 defense. Most people say number 1 defense in the league last year. When you look at what they were able to do, strength, weaknesses, all that good stuff, this year, last year gave up a few big plays. The big play hurt them a little bit. The defense on the road was a little difficult, and Myles Garrett has talked about that a little bit too. What do you make of the home road splits? Like, you know, the Browns had one of the best home field advantages, man. They started banging them trash cans and tinfoil, whatever they was doing. But when it was on the road a little bit, they struggled a little bit against some of these other teams. Do you think it was just matchup specific that they were playing good teams on the road? Or do you think there's something to be said for the woes of giving up bigger plays and making sure that they can bring some of those down on the road?
I think the story at the Browns on the road last year is just real simple. It's a combination of injuries and offensive turnovers. And then, as you mentioned, quality of opponent being higher that made for that gap. If you look at just the week 10 post splits, right, in the week 10 pre splits, the defense has that same gap there because they had some injuries happen on the defensive side, especially to the back end of that secondary. As you mentioned, the big plays became a big thing in the second half of the season. Well, it's no mistake you got younger safeties in there, that those things are going to happen, especially when you're playing as much man coverage as the Cleveland Browns do. It's kind of just showing you the importance of Ronnie McLeod and the importance of Juan Thornhill to stay healthy this year. So I think some of that dialogue is overblown. A lot of it was just Joe Flacco was turning that ball over a lot at the last part of the season. And then he also played a lot of the road games in the season. So that kind of inflated what the defensive numbers look like. And then another part of it is that you did play more quality opponents at the right time on the road than you did at home, right? Like you played Russ when he was playing his best football. You played Matt Stafford when he was playing his best football, and then you ran into CJ Stroud when he was playing his best football. So the quality of opponent was up there too. So I'm not too worried about if this defense can show up on the road, because I don't think it was exclusively the venue that was causing these issues. I think my concern is, can the offense turn down the turnovers, right? Running and passing. We focus a lot on the interceptions that they threw. They had 14 fumbles lost last year, which was fourth in the NFL. So, you know, you gotta take care of those turnovers, and then you got to stay healthy. If they take care of the turnovers, they stay healthy, we're going to be talking about the best defense in the NFL, road or home.
Well, you know, you take a look at one of the things that plagued them a little bit too. You just mentioned it. They play a lot of man coverage. I believe they're in the top 3 or 4 in playing man-to-man coverage. they're really good at it. I would play a lot of man too. I mean, you got Martin Emerson, you got 3 of the top 35 corners, Greg Newsome, as well as Denzel Ward. So you really have an opportunity and an advantage, especially with Myles Garrett coming off the edge and a guy like JOK Rum in the middle of the field. Do you believe that there's that they'll do some more things in terms of match zones, more cover 3, different things like that, just to give up, something to put on film and something for quarterbacks to think about a little bit?
Definitely for division opponents, I think they'll throw in some wrinkles because, like, when you play the Cowboys, they're going to be familiar with you, but they're not going to be so familiar that when they see a look, they have like absolute confidence in what it's going to be, right? That's only going to be for your division opponents where you can like fool them, where you're like, okay, we're going to show this look. They're going to think this is a man press look that we ran on them a lot last year. He's going to instantly check to it because we ran it 2-3 times in this game already. And then we're going to switch and have like a linebacker come underneath and cut off that hook that he wants to throw. So I think during division opponents, you'll see more of that. They're probably going to keep it more similar than different at the beginning of the season when you're playing NFC opponents and you're playing like one-off AFC opponents. So, they're probably just going to do their thing, right? Man coverage. We're going to get to you, see if you can handle Myles Garrett. Probably they want to have some counter punches in there just in case they get hit. And I think they've worked on that because they have the bases down for the defense. But yeah, I think they're going to go into this season thinking we have the bases. Like when we play a team we feel like we should beat, we know what we can do, our bread and butter, right? Mike Tyson always got that hook, right? That don't change no matter who he's playing. He's always going to peekaboo and he's always going to try to get up close to you and he's going to try to hit that hook. That part doesn't change. What does change, and what Mike ultimately like struggled doing was when he did get hit in that round and it did get into the 4th, 5th round. Do you have that counter punch? And I think that's what they're working on is for those situations. They might get it against the Cowboys. They might get it against Philly. And we might be able to see it before division play. But I think we're really going to feel what the difference is and what they're changing and what they're doing differently once they start playing those division opponents, because that's when it's really going to start to matter that you don't do the same stuff that you did last year. Because, I mean, we talk about the continuity in this division is insane. You just take what we played 8 games, just regular season, amongst all like a whole season of football games between all of these AFC North teams that they've seen each other, the same coaches, the same personnel for the last 4 years. So if they got any tricks, they're going to wait until they play their division opponents to show any of those tricks.
And I think that's smart because the defense, like I said in the opening, is going to be ahead of the offense anyway. Week 1 usually is sloppy play. I think, we'll talk about it coming up here in a little bit when it comes to the game plan and stuff. I think the team who does not look the sloppiest, like, hey, there might be a situation where someone throws a screen and they take it to the house, or somebody has a really big play, but there's illegal man downfield, or there's holding, or illegal hands to the face. Things, little small, little dumb stuff like that really take points off the board. Whatever team does not do that in the sloppy first game, I think can come out and win this football game. But I expect the pass rushers and Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and as well as the guys on the side for the Cleveland Browns, obviously Myles Garrett. I expect those dudes to be pinning their ears back, and I think you have to be balanced in these type of games. I think the run game is key as well. Like, you can't be dropping back in obvious pass downs a whole bunch trying to make up some yards and points for penalties.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the Dallas Cowboys can run the ball against the Cleveland Browns, because that's been a big question mark of theirs coming out of camp. I know they got Rico Dowley they think is going to be the starter coming out of there, and then Zeke and Dalvin Cook, right, I guess, are there to make you waste time in film because they're so like well known that you're gonna have to watch the film. I feel like that's like the strategy that they're doing. It's like, okay, you're gonna waste time watching Dalvin and Zeke film, and you're not gonna focus on Rico.
6 years ago, whoo, Dalvin Cook and Zeke in the same bag. Not so much today.
No, if you had him at Florida State and Ohio State, that would have been killer. Like, killer. But it ain't 2015 no more. So it's unfortunate, right? It's almost, which, by the way, they're going to make you feel old. Almost 10 years since we've seen Zeke at Ohio State.
2015. Like, you got to think about that. Like, the Cavs won in 2016.
Yeah, we approaching 10 years on that, huh?
That's approaching 10. Like we all know there's some people out here in this industry living off their 2016 videos. Like you still you living off them 2016 takes.
That's crazy, man. 2016 is almost 10 years ago.
Woo.
That was a time, by the way, for those of y'all who are my age, the under 30, but almost 30 people, 2016, that was our, like, I don't know what year in the 2000s it was for you, but 2016 was the year of the younger millennial, where it's like, yeah, Future was out. We had the best music going. The party was jumping. Like 2016 was, we gonna see a lot of like nostalgic stuff marketed to us as we get 40, 50 years old. And you know how like for the last year, it was like 1985, right? When Thriller came out, right? Or whatever year that was. Like they always go back to that year. Yeah, we gonna be sick of that 2016 nostalgia by the time we 60, boy.
2001 was it. Like you had 9/11. Like you had like you Nelly was jumping Air Force One. Mm-hmm. Like we had everything. We had Eminem.
Every like jumbling of like 5 to 6 years of adults, like within 5 to 6 years of each other, they have that 1 year where it was the peak of the cultural zeitgeist at that moment. And in 2016, for a lot of people, like even people who ain't even Cavs fans, right? Like you just talk to them, well, 2016 come up, you know, and a light shot in our eye as we talk about Lil Uzi Vert's come up. Like,
shout out to Coach K and all of them over there, man. The City Girls, listen, Lil Yachty, all the littles was jumping back.
Oh yeah, all the cloud rap, man. That was look.
SoundCloud era. You probably never thought y'all would jump on the Ultimate Browns and you hear about SoundCloud rappers, but that's what you get.
Because look, we talked about Mos Def, and people were like, "Oh, we got a Mos Def reference in the video." They was very appreciative of it. Just know in 20 years, that's gonna be whenever somebody like, "Yeah, man, remember Lil Yachty?" Like somebody gonna be like, "Yeah, now that's that real."
That's the real. I would never thought I would ever hear most rappers be considered the real.
When they had no melodies.
When we get back, we gonna get into the real matchup. We get to the real conversation over here. We'll get our final comments on this game. We'll go over X factors, the game plan, and we'll break it all down coming up next right here on the Ultimate Browns. Let's go ahead and talk about the Ultimate Guardians. Guardians, they scared me to death a couple of days ago. Royals took over first place for the first time. Well, guess what? The Guardians are a game and a half up on the Royals now. Twins not far behind. If you want to stay up to all of the updated content for this, upcoming pennant race, make sure you check out Zach Miles and Adam the Bull on the Ultimate Guardians. Cavs, they're going down to IMG Academy, doing some training camp down there in Florida. Make sure you tune into the Ultimate Cavs. Jason Lloyd, Mikey McNuggets. They'll be talking about that. Season's coming up. You don't want to miss it. Earl the Pearl, my guy, man. Ultimate 216, mix of sports and culture. If you want to know what's going on in the streets of Cleveland, when it comes to that, Earl the Pearl is your guy. And then, it's me. Come on, man. I so big. I can't do just one. I got to do two joints coming up. Don't forget, coming up, this next episode is on a Tuesday. During the season, it's Tuesday and Friday, every single Tuesday and Friday, right here on the UCSS network. And obviously, that is Ultimate Browns. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when all of these videos are going to be dropping. Well, we back at it, Quincy. Fastest 30. I think they got more than 30 minutes, but we give you a little bonus content. Fastest 30 minutes in all sports. Ultimate Browns. Quincy Carrier's in the building when we breaking it down, going over the Cowboys versus Browns game matchups. Let's get to the X factors. Let's get to this game plan.
The perfect amount of time we should just call this show is, when you come up to somebody, you supposed to meet up with somebody, you say, "I'm pulling up."
Yeah.
The difference between the time that you say you pulling up to when you actually show up, that's the length of this show.
Back in the day, our folks would have called it CPT time.
Yeah. If you ever wonder what that person is doing when they say, "Oh yeah, about to pull up," and it's been 30 minutes, you don't see the sitcom almost done with your second episode of the sitcom. Just understand they listening to us. We are the time gap here. That is what happens here.
Hey man, you got enough time to brush your hair, put a wave cap on. Like you might change your shirt. You're like, "I'm on my way."
Somebody texts me, "I'm pulling up. I'm about to jump in the shower." Like, okay, cool.
I'm gonna jump in the shower. And they be saying it slow too. Man, I'm about to pull up right now.
Mhm.
Man, I'm already on
Now,
my
if they
way.
call you and say pull it up, that's different, right?
Yes,
Now, you can't abuse that. That'd be 5 minutes away.
that
But the
means you're
text about to pull up, unless you got their location, you got 35.
right.
Like I'm telling you, like
Or if it's a girl, if it is a girl and they say they're about to pull up, they are at the stop sign. They are like, you ain't got time to do nothing, because they will be like, I'm pulling. My wife say I'm pulling up now. She's in the driveway already. It's just that
is the distinction, right? We are talking about two different worlds, like where it's like, okay, if it's somebody mama telling you that, you better be ready.
You better be ready. Get your shoes on.
Yeah, don't play. She ain't got time, dog. She better be ready. Shoot, be out there in the driveway when she pull up.
Yeah, yes, that's what we got to do, man. Listen, the Cowboys about to pull up. When they pull up, it'll be Sunday coming up. When you look at this matchup, it's really weird, because when you start to get good, you start to look at matchups a little differently, right? Yeah. There's nothing on the schedule that I see for the Cleveland Browns where it's like, oh, that's an automatic win or automatic L. It's just different the way you look at the games. And I've always tried to tell people that the way you view the Browns and the way you watch the games has to also evolve while the team is getting better. I think there's way too many people in our industry that do a disservice to what we are supposed to be doing, and that is supposed to be bringing our audience along to give a window to say, hey, this is no longer a 1-15, 0-16 where we're trying to find moral stories or trying to figure out Hail Mary wins. We're at a point where every single game on the schedule is a matchup. Every single game on the schedule is winnable. And it's just about how you go about breaking down and viewing it. And I think sometimes people, we haven't updated our Microsoft systems up here to understand this is a new day.
We ain't got that software update. It's difficult to gauge, right? Because on one hand, the Browns are much better than they were in 2017. It's obvious that they have made that improvement. The one area I would say on why you're going to have a lot of people still being a little hesitant, especially the older, more stubborn fans who are a little bit more reluctant to kind of relax off this because they've seen a lot, is the success is there, but it hasn't really been codified yet because they haven't had that undeniable season, right? Like that's why what Detroit did last year was so important, because that was undeniable what they were able to achieve last year.
Or bell to bell.
Yeah, even Cincinnati. There's a reason why nobody's about to really be like Cincinnati's going to go back to 7 wins or something like that, even though the press around them has been bad this offseason. And I think they will be a good team, is because they've had that undeniable run of 2 conference championship games and a Super Bowl appearance. And then obviously, if you win a Super Bowl, you win 2 of them like Pat has, you become undeniable in a completely different way. The Browns need to codify their success. They've had good success. They've had fun success. They've had the best success we've seen in the expansion era, no doubt. But we talk about this on this show, and I talked about this on my show. They're out of the since 99 era, which means you're not going to be judged on that same bar anymore. You're going to be judged on the same bar that everybody else gets judged around the league. And getting to the playoffs a couple of times and going 11-6 is not undeniable success for people, for regular teams, right? That's not going to just codify a new organization, a new way of doing things forever. So if you're the Browns, this is your opportunity to codify and make this long-term success. Make the Andrew Berry era one that, instead of being contract to contract, is undeniable. Like, it's just going to exist as long as Andrew Berry wants to do it. The same with Kevin Stefanski, right?
But is it possible to have undeniable when you have the quarterback you have? It goes back to the first segment. It's a little more difficult to have undeniable because of the guy who's at the helm. There's always going to be some detractors about it. So I think it's a weird space a little bit.
Well, the thing is, they're going to be detractors about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
But they're not really going to it hasn't really translated to being detractors about Kevin Stefanski nationally or Andrew Berry. So if Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski do it, they don't like Deshaun Watson so much, quite frankly, that they're going to get more credit than they probably would if there were a quarterback there that they like, if they have that undeniable success, because some people are still going to view it in the lens of, look what they're doing with that failure of a quarterback.
Right.
Even if the quarterback isn't a failure. So I think that they'll be fine. They're not going to really be touched by that because they kind of benefit reputation wise from the lack of love that Deshaun Watson has out there in the national media and from the lack of will for people to give him credit about stuff, especially on the football field. So I think they'll be fine there. And undeniable success is undeniable. So you get to the conference championship game, they ain't got to love Deshaun Watson. We don't love every quarterback that's played in the conference championship game, but we do respect every coach that's gotten there, right? Like Mike Zimmer, people wanted the Browns to hire Mike Zimmer so long because he got to the conference championship game with the Minnesota Vikings, right? Like that does codify you as an organization, as a team. Like all of those things do become more important when you have that level of success. And I think that's what the Browns really got to do this year. I mean, look at Buffalo, right? Like they have yet to codify that success in a way. And even if you get to the conference championship game, it's worth noting, you can't be embarrassing in that game. You gotta like, you gotta feel like you could have won it and could have gone to the Super Bowl to codify that success. So that's, I think, the difference there is they need to codify their success. And I think once they do that, you'll see a shift from what the normie opinion is of the Cleveland Browns and the organization from a national standpoint, and even from local people who are a bit more hardened by what's happened to this team since '99. They will start to be like, okay, they got to a conference championship game. We cannot let this go because we still don't let Marty Schottenheimer go.
Man, so let that man rest. Like they still be talking about
like Bernie Kosar. Think about the legacy that Bernie Kosar has had, and what codified his success was 2 conference championship appearances in 2 very close games. So these are the things that make it so that you're going to have legends of this era for the next 20, 30 years that people are going to grow up on. And that's what they need to do, and that's what this season is about.
Really quickly, X factors. Give me somebody who in this game could ultimately change one way or another, good or bad, for the Cleveland Browns that can say, wow, that play right there really changed some stuff. Like he moved the chains on this. What a great block. Or give me somebody that could be a person that we may not really think of right now, especially because we haven't seen a lot of those guys in preseason, but somebody that could make some sort of difference in the outcome of this game besides the regular names.
All right, so I'm going to leave out kind of the obvious one in Deshaun Watson, right? So defensively, I think JOK and Dalvin Tomlinson are going to be very important to this game because they need to be able to stop the run, force Dallas to be able to throw. I think they're going to test Martin Emerson. I think they're going to try to get CD on Martin Emerson, and they're going to test him. If Martin holds up, I think we're going to be in for a really good day, especially if he holds up early. If Martin doesn't, then we're going to be in for a long day. I don't know if they're going to try to do the same thing with Greg because that'll be a little bit different. Greg does play the slot, but I think the Browns going to avoid putting Greg in the slot in this one, put him outside and have Denzel follow him from strong to slot. So I think they're going to be like, okay, if we can't shake Denzel Ward that way, we'll adjust and we'll take what you're going to leave us with Martin Emerson on him, and we're going to try to attack that. And teams have tried to do that before, and it's been the difference in the defensive performance when Martin holds up versus when Martin doesn't. So I think that's going to be a huge part of this game. Offensively, I think David Njoku's going to be the biggest linchpin in this game where it comes to turning the tide. Will he be able to get underneath and do the bull in China shop stuff that he was able to do when he sees the coverages that he's going to see? I think that's going to be a huge factor in this game and what the Browns are going to be relying on. They don't have Nick Chubb in, Deontay Foreman and Jerome Ford. We know they're not great 1st and 10 options. So I think they're going to use David Njoku to supplement some of that getting ahead of the sticks stuff. And if the Browns are able to get ahead of the sticks, and the one thing I always will give Kevin Stefanski credit for, when he gets ahead of the sticks, that offense cooks, right? Like when they stay free of penalty and they get ahead of the sticks and they can be on time, the Browns could be out there for 9 minutes and score. They could be out there for 4 minutes and score. That offense is good when they can do that. And I think that's going to be a huge part of their plan to stay ahead of the sticks, is getting that ball to David Njoku early and often. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas has a counter to that. Their linebackers don't really feel like they're equipped to do that in 2024. And if the Browns are able to kind of attack that stuff, then I think it's going to open up stuff for Jerry Jeudy over the middle of the field. Amari Cooper, they're going to play one-on-one. It depends on, like, it's going to be 50-50 whether he beats Trayvon Diggs or not in that battle. Like, it could be a bad day for Trayvon. It could be a good day for Trayvon. Right. So I'm not going to say it relies on Amari, but I think David Njoku is the one you look at. You're like, hey, we should plan for success here. And I think that's going to be a big part of their path to success.
Listen, I'll start on offense because you went where I was going to go. David Njoku, a lot of his success was the check release stuff last year with Joe Flacco. He got, he was able to provide protection, with two backup tackles. They would put him on different sides of the football and he would stay in and check release. And a lot of times teams left him open. We found out that David Njoku was a load to tackle in the open field. I think they still do some of that. Especially when you're dealing with Jack Conklin or Jed Wills. I think they may be a little they may be sucking wind a little bit earlier on in the game because they aren't really in football shape. I think they'll use him out, keep him in a little bit, but then check release and still do some of those things as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a tight end screen somewhere within the first few drives to invite the defense up to be aggressive, and then kind of check it down underneath with the screens. I think one of the big things is huge for me is Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford doesn't have to have 300 yards rushing. Jerome Ford doesn't have to have 100 yards rushing. What Jerome Ford has to do is get the yards that are available to him. If it's 3 yards, maximize that, give me the 3 yards. Because right now, I look at the defensive line in the interior, as well as the linebacker core. The Dallas Cowboys do not have what it takes to stop the run. That was where the power base of the Browns offense is, between Pochich, Teller, and Joe Boltonio. They can run the ball a little bit, and it's up to him to get the 3 or 4. And like you said, stand in front of those chains where Deshaun Watson has 3 options. I could throw the ball underneath. I could possibly take it. I could pull these screens down and scramble, get out of bounds, and extend the play. Or I can look to play make and go off schedule a little bit. If it's 2nd and 4, going off schedule ain't too bad. Right, but I don't want you going off schedule at 3rd and 12, 3rd and 11 with Micah Parsons. Defensively, I think it's going to be a game where Martin Emerson is going to be a guy that's going to be a guy that they will look at. I think they'll try Greg Newsome a little bit. The safeties. I need Thornhill and Delpit, solid tacklers. No missed tackles, no run after catch. Come up, make the play. And to me, the one that is the biggest for me is Zadarius Smith. If Zadarius Smith can give me, he don't got to give me 3 sacks. If he can give me consistent pressure where it's like, oh, well, Zadarius Smith is back there too. And he's not Myles Garrett. Any other pressure besides what Myles Garrett is giving you is gravy. I think that's what transforms the Browns defense into something of a monster.
All right. I like those, G.
Well, listen, we gave you a bunch of analysis that we gave you overtime in this. Make sure y'all eat that up. Make sure you hit the like button. Comment below. What is your game plan for this game for the Cowboys? We'll go ahead and take a look at that as well. So, Quincy, with that being said, I got the Browns winning this game. You probably give your prediction later on. What I'm going to give. We saved that. Make sure you go ahead and check that out with him. With that being said, you never know where your boy G Bush might be. Radio, television, internet. But if you want a fresh cut on sports, you got to come check out your boy in the barbershop. We always do what we do. And guess what? If you want to see me, listen for the Clippers. Have a great weekend, a holiday weekend, and go Browns.
Smell like Tresemme in there.